Welcome to the Publishing Performance Show, the podcast that helps self-published authors turn their passion into a profit. Now, I'm your host, Teddy Smith, and if you're serious about building a sustainable business, then you're in the right place. Every week, I sit down with successful authors, industry experts, and publishing professionals who share their exact strategies they use right now to how they've grown their business, grow their readership, increase their book sales, and essentially to make a bit more money. Now, whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale your existing publishing business, you'll walk away from every episode with actionable insights you can implement immediately. Now, if you're new here, it would really help me out if you could subscribe either on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or wherever you are. Just simply hit the subscribe button. It really helps the show to get more reach, which means we can get better guests for you and we can help you out in more ways. All right, let's dive into this episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Publishing Performance Show. Today I'm really delighted to be joined by Walt Hampton, who is the Acquisitions Editor and the Director of Marketing for Summit Press Publishing. So thank you very much for joining me, Walt.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So we were joking before you came on. You've got a long job title. Explain to me what that job title means and what you do.
It is. You forgot to mention that I'm a legend in my own mind too, Teddy. So as acquisitions editor at Summit Press Publishers, I've got the great privilege and gift of reviewing manuscripts that people send to us when they would like to explore publishing with us. So I, every week, am looking at dozens of different manuscripts that come in from people who have books that are either in their minds still or actually have some files created. And so that's a really fun part of my job. And the other part is at the other end of the process of writing and publishing a book. A book is only valuable in the world if you get it out in the world in a big way. And one of my joys is helping authors create the means by which they make that happen. Whether it be taking their book and creating a product or a program, developing a keynote, using it to build a coaching or consulting business, all the different ways that authors can actually leverage the book. One of the things we say at Summit Press is that it's really not about the book. It's what you do with the book that actually brings you the income and allows you to make the impact that you want in the world.
So what is it about Summit Press that is different to other publishers?
Well, I would say, and our team actually met about this yesterday. What's different about us is that we're not just about publishing great books, great looking books, substantive books, but actually continuing to support our authors through the process for as long as they want to get the book out into the world. So, for example, recently with a wonderful book by an experiential educator, we worked on creating a keynote address that she was able to get paid $10,000 an event for. One of our authors in the financial services world wanted to take the book and create a product or program for his audience. When we launched the book, he had a $250,000 launch date. Not because of the book by itself, but by virtue of having a program. It was a $5,000 program, and he sold 100 units of that program even before we published the book.
Wow.
But then, what happens, Teddy, and you know this being in the industry, is that oftentimes there's a big splash when a book is released, keeping the momentum going. I remember when I released my first book, Journeys on the Edge, Living a Life That Matters, way back in the day, became a 2-time winner of the North American Book Awards, an Amazon bestseller. My publisher back in the day said, on the day of publication, said, Walt, congratulations, you're halfway there. And I was like, what do you mean? My book is out in the world. And I'm an ultra distance athlete. I run crazy distances like 50 and 100 miles. And she was a marathoner. And I got what she was saying. What she was saying is publishing a book is not a sprint. It really is a marathon. And keeping the message out in the world, continuing to use the book to bring clients to you is part of the joy that we have as a publishing house. And I think the thing that separates us in the market, one of the things I think that separates us in the marketplace.
Yeah, I sometimes I think writing the book is the easiest part of publishing because you've got full control over what you're doing, and it's like everything's down to whether you're actually doing the job you need to do. Whereas the other stuff, it's a lot more tactical and there's a
Yes.
lot more issues to it.
Yes. Yeah. There are a lot of moving parts to it. But, what we have found is that for many of our authors, the book, when used correctly, becomes the single most powerful lead magnet for their business. We published a book this past year in a very niche arena, the sex addiction arena. And that's a very tricky business to do traditional Google pay-per-click or Facebook advertising. But the book, backed by the marketing systems and processes that we've developed with the author, has just exponentially allowed this author to reach a lot of people and help a lot of people with a very tricky problem.
Yeah, definitely. So you don't just help people with the publishing of the book. A lot of it is around the marketing and the follow-up business you can build around it, and essentially helping people to create that entire sort of network of business around them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So one of your I'll say it big. One of your previous books, and was one of the things I wanted to talk about today, was the powers and the principles of the power principles of time mastery. Sorry. And I know a lot of the people that you work with are, successful business people, or they are successful in other ways. And generally when people are successful, that time commitment stuff, that's the hardest part to get people because, they're busy working on their actual business. And so I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was when you are trying to set time aside to write a book, what is the key thing that you need to do in order to make sure you've got time to write that book?
So coming back to my example of ultra marathoning, or I do a lot of high altitude mountain climbing, I couldn't tell our listeners today how to run a 50-mile race other than to say that it's one step at a time, or how to climb a 7,000 meter peak. It's done one step at a time. Anything big is done one step at a time. And so, number one, getting really clear about what you want to create in the world for a book and why it matters. Our why, as you know, Teddy, is the rocket fuel that helps us bust through the resistance and overcome the hurdles. And if our why is sufficient and we are clear about the destination, then honoring that call, honoring that mission by carving out time. Many times our authors will say, well, we just don't have time to write a book. Well, time blocking is a key principle in time management and productivity. There's lots of research around it about why it works, how it works. And we work best in 60 to 90-minute blocks of time. We block time generally for client work, for consulting work. We block time for medical appointments. We tend not to block time for things like exercise and well-being. We tend not to block time for relationship stuff. And we tend not to block time for that thing that we would really like to get to, that book that we'd like to write someday. But when we block at least small amounts of time regularly, the compounding effect is huge. And so, if someone said to me, well, where should I start? I would say, start by blocking out an hour a week to write. Just start there. Start there. Maybe it becomes, an hour 3 times a week. A lot of writers and creatives, they think that they need to have massive amounts of space, and ideally, it would be great to be Faulkner or Hemingway and move to Venice and get a beret and sit on the Grand Canal and write every day at Harry's Bar. But the truth is that in the modern day world, we don't have the luxury of that. But we can push a book forward brick by brick, as the title of the new book that we just released today. How is a cathedral built stone by stone? So
Yeah.
one step at a time, but the key is to schedule it and to honor it as a commitment to yourself and this amazing work that you're going to get out into the world.
When you're doing that time blocking, do you have a structure that you give to that time? So say, for example, you say, this week I'm going to write for 2 hours in 2 1-hour blocks. How do you say in that first hour, I'm going to do X, Y, Z? Just a quick shout out to all the romance authors out there. Now, if you're tired of shouting into the void every time you launch a brand new romance book, then let myromancereaders.com do the shouting for you. They have a list of over 18,000 romance readers who love getting books when they're on discounts or on the free promotion. And it goes into their inbox every single day. It's got an amazing open rate, and every promotion gets on average over 600 clicks. That's a lot of new readers for your new series of romance books. So head to myromancereaders.com where you can sign up today.
Yeah, well, again, it's reverse engineering. And for example, this morning, we're working on a book in a very interesting niche industry around a just really tragic medical issue called locked-in syndrome. It's precipitated by stroke in the brainstem. And we were reverse engineering some of the questions that our author's team will answer to ask to the families that they're going to interview or that will interview. So if I were, before you and I got together today, my last hour was on my calendar, develop interview questions. That's what I did. I developed the interview questions. It could be, if I'm first starting out, what do I want the overall thesis of the book to be? I'm going to spend this hour on that. Or it could be, if I'm moving forward, what would be a draft TOC, table of contents for this book? Or it might be, what is the conclusion of the book going to be? And not so parenthetically, that's a pretty early step in writing a book. I don't think you and I talked about this, but I was a trial lawyer for a managing partner of a trial firm for many, many years. And my trial advocacy teacher said, always write your closing argument first. And what that gives to an author is then they have a destination they're writing to. They have a pre-formed arc that they're writing to. So the hour might be, or the 2 hours might be, work on the conclusion of my book. So just breaking down the components of a book. Oh, and then later, of course, reviewing the draft or proofreading or whatever those are. But your question is an important one, because what happens if you just have work on book, you show up in that hour of time, you go, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Does that help, that answer?
Well, I think so. I mean, you kind of touched on it before. You mentioned is understanding what your why is. And if you are writing backwards, I mean, the conclusion is essentially giving away why you're writing that book in the first place. So sometimes by writing backwards, I think you're right. You can sort of outline why you're doing it in the first place and then set your time like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because as you're talking, I'm just thinking that's the way we help people build keynotes too. We actually develop the grand exhortation, that grand call to action, that thing the speaker wants their audience to remember. What often happens when you rehearse a keynote is you rehearse it from the beginning to the end. And of course, what happens is the beginning is great, but the end is weak. When you rehearse it from the end back to the beginning, the thing that people remember is that grand close. And similarly with a book, the people who are reading the book, they're going to walk away with, what am I going to do now? And that's the invitation, particularly for prescriptive nonfiction books. What can I do now to actualize all these lessons in the world? And that's what we want for our readers.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. It's like, what do you want the takeaways to be? And then write it backwards from there. I mean, you mentioned just now you're writing, or you've just finished writing brick by brick. What did your daily or weekly writing schedule look like for that? And how did you structure that time?
Well, I'm going to answer for my books, because that book was just released by and authored by our publisher, Shaybani. Yeah, no, not at all. I watched her do it. And so it's not dissimilar from the way that I work, which is, again, getting clear on the organizational structure. Not, back in the day at university or college, high school, when you'd write a paper back in the day, you'd create, the Roman numeral outline. Here's what it's going to look like, and getting an idea as to the structure. So getting that first idea and that conclusion down. So for me, what I would do after that is I would schedule an hour or 2 hours to work on chapter 1. And that would be what I might do the second week too. And it's the consistency that matters most, Teddy. It's the consistency that matters most.
Do you see any particular common time-wasting habits that writers, entrepreneurs make when they're writing books that you've published?
Yes. Spending too much time with their phones next to them.
Okay.
So there is, again, and I talk about this in the Power Principles of Time Mastery. There's an incredibly interesting science called interruption science. It is the study of what happens when we move off task. And the science is a little scary. The research is scary. What the research shows is that we are either interrupted or cause ourselves to be interrupted every 3 minutes of the day. Every 3 minutes of the day. And when we are interrupted, there is what's called an attentional residue. That is to say, it takes us an amount of time to come back to the thing that we were doing. And the attentional residue has been measured at the low end at 10 minutes or 11 minutes to get really fully refocused. And at the high end, about 20 minutes. So if you are interrupted or cause yourself to be interrupted every 3 minutes of the day, and this is a silly, you've actually lost 33 hours of productivity every day. It's just throwing it into the ridiculousness. But my point is, if in an hour you have your notifications and alerts open on your browser while you're in your Google Doc or your Word doc, or you have your phone, even in your room, if you have your phone, the research has shown that it is distracting to even have. If I'm content developing, I don't even have my phone in my space. I have all of my notifications and alerts off. And so it's distraction, Teddy, that is the killer.
I read a really good book about that called Indistractable.
Oh, that's a wonderful read.
Yeah, it's really good, really easy to read. And he's a really successful entrepreneur. And I think he talks about something very similar. It's like every time you've got distraction, it takes you away from the traction that you're trying to move forward with. And that's a really good tip. So when you're writing, do you have like a way of completely, do you have a method of completely blocking everything out? Do you have any tools you use, or is it just a case of just turn everything off and move them away?
It's like old school. Go to a space that's yours to go to and turn everything off. It is wonderful. A little added tip is to enroll the people who support you. So I was working with a very successful lawyer in Dublin, and she was the managing partner of a firm. And we talked about how to write without being interrupted. And she said, well, everything you're saying is not going to work for me because we have an open office plan, and our offices, our partners' offices are all glass. I said, well, Lorna, that's why God made 3M sticky notes. You get with your assistant and you tell your assistant to hold your calls, and you put a little 3M sticky note on your glass door that says, writing, come back in an hour.
Yep.
And 2 weeks later, when I met with her again, she said, that's amazing. It worked. And so when we enroll our assistants or those we love who are in our space by saying, I'm going to spend the next hour just writing on this book that I really want to get out in the world. And I'd love if you would just help me protect that space. And I promise when I'm back with you, you've got my full attention. And many times, a lot of the time, that really helps people. But turning off the distractions, getting support from the outside, and really just honoring that bubble makes you amazingly productive.
Maybe that should be the name of your next book, the sticky note productivity technique. Now, One of the things you talk about a lot in your book is the 6 paths to finishing your book. So let's walk through first what those 6 paths are, and then we'll go through how they can get you to from beginning to end.
Number one is, and it relates to what we've already been talking to, 1 page a day. Number 2 is one blog a week, unearthing what you already have, book coaching, book doctoring, and ghostwriting. Those are the 6.
Right. Okay. So let's go through the first one. So 1 page a day. So what does that look like in practice? Like, is it a particular number of words, or do you have a limit on this?
So we come back to the metaphor again of running. I run every day. I live in the Northeast of the United States, where it's winter. And the last thing that I ever want to do is go running, even though I'm a runner. The hardest step is to get out the door. That's the hardest step. Once I'm out the door, once I'm running, I feel like running more.
Yeah.
And the same is true with writing. A blank page is a really daunting thing for many people, particularly if it's like, oh my God, I've got to fill a lot of blank pages. But if you sit down with the goal of just writing a blank page,
mm-hmm.
and that's all your goal is, and you write that, and you don't care how it gets written. We tell our authors, get a shitty first draft on the page. It's much easier to edit than it is to draft from scratch. So once you got something on the page, so the goal is just write a page. So it could be, I'm going to write a page in this 2-hour block. Yep. Just 1 page. Now, here's what's interesting. At book signings, it's not unfrequent for somebody to come, oh, well, Mr. Hampton, it's so nice to have heard you today, and I love your book, and yada, yada. I've always wanted to write a book. And I'm thinking, well, why don't you just write one?
Yeah.
Because if you wrote a page a day for 365 days, you'd have some really serious editing to do at the end of a year.
Yeah.
Because, a prescriptive nonfiction book, 150, 175, 200 pages, 365 pages. It's a lot of content. Just 1 page a day. And so that's a really good way to approach it. Now, a year sounds like a long time, but I don't know about your listeners looking back over this last year. It's gone by pretty quick.
Yep.
So 1 page a day gets you to an amazing destination.
That's, yeah. And then your next step was to set the hours time block. So are you saying that each of those hours would be like one of your pages, or is it a different way of looking at it? It could be.
No, it's just 2 different models here. But I mean, on having the time to write a page a day. So your time block might say, write 1 page.
Yeah. I mean, before you even got to writing a page, do you have a method for like trying to structure that book? Like, would you try and get that outline done first, or would that be one of your pages?
Well, it could be one of your pages, Teddy, absolutely. But I would think knowing your destination, we're all used to getting into our cars and having our navigation system tell us what the destination was. Yeah. Back in the old days, you'd open up Google Maps, or you'd open up an old paper map, and you'd trace your destination. You don't really start off on a trip somewhere without knowing the journey. And I think that's a really important thing to think about when you're writing your book, is how do you you're mapping out the trip.
Yeah. So you're doing a page a day and you're setting your time blocking for the week. And then this third one, you're talking about booking coaching. Was that the third one?
Well, no, the first one was a page a day.
Yeah.
All right. The second way, this is actually a resource that we share as part of our promotion of Summit Press, how to write a book when you don't really want to write a book, how to write a book when you don't want to write a book. The second one is a blog a week. So I work with a lot of high performing professionals, who are often doing content marketing of some sort. They're writing a newsletter article. They're writing a blog piece. They're writing a LinkedIn newsletter. They're doing something on a regular basis. And oftentimes, these are between 500 and 1,000 words a week.
Yeah.
Over the course of a year or 2 years, there is a tremendous amount of content.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating, Teddy, is because it's the person writing it, there becomes embedded themes in what we write about. There's a rhythm and a cadence about what we write about. And if you were to take, if one of your listeners were to take their last 18 months of content marketing and print it out and put it across their conference tables, they'd go, I can see how this could be a book.
Yeah.
My very first book, which was very successful, Journeys on the Edge, Living Life That Matters, was done just that way. It was 2 years of content marketing that I had already done. And when I started doing the content marketing, I had no idea what would become a book. And that was very cool. Now, in this day, when I'm working with executives or business professionals growing their businesses, one of the very first things I get them doing early on is a content marketing, a rhythm and a cadence to a weekly content marketing. And I pre-frame this. I say, who knows? Could be a book someday. But let's just start. This is going to serve the growing of your business by doing content marketing, good quality content marketing. And it becomes this amazing reservoir. So a blog a week. That's not
amazing.
hard.
No, it's not hard. And also, it's what's interesting about that. I work with a lot of people who have written a book and they want to think about how they can expand their reach slightly further and maybe start a website. And I say, well, you've already written 30,000 words. I mean, out of those 10, say it's broken into 10 chapters and each chapter has 3 main points in it. Each of those main points can be a blog post or a newsletter. Suddenly you've got 6 months worth of content to post without having actually have to do anything. You're just repurposing the content you've already got. So it sounds like you're kind of saying, doing it the other way. You've written all this stuff. Let's bring it back turn it into a book, which is neatly packaged in one place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you've just shared is closer to the third one, which is do some archaeology across everything that you have created as a business owner. So, in our business, we've got, multiple social media channels. We have multiple downloads and lead magnets and webinars and teleseminars and books and ebooks. And we have all of this content. And if we didn't yet have a book, the exercise would be to go in and look at all of the content you have created. And then with a bit of archaeology and arrangement, deciding what that book will be. And you can repurpose as you have just suggested. The blog is a slightly easier way to proceed because you've got the defined content that actually probably are chapters to the book in many cases versus trying to source the archaeological pieces from social media stuff or LinkedIn articles or newsletter pieces you've written. But doing the archaeological work, the content creation is the third way of approaching a book to write a book if you really don't know how to write a book.
Yeah. Do you use any tools to do that repurposing? Like, for example, do you use AI to bring everything you've written together and work out? Like,
I love that you asked. I love that you asked the AI question. We, as a publishing house, leaned in before any other publishing house around the AI. And AI is an extraordinary tool. And used well, it is brilliant. If I'm as acquisitions editor and I'm looking at a piece, I can tell immediately if something is written by AI. And it's an immediate no for me.
Yeah.
I mean, AI, something entirely generated by AI is devoid of soul.
Yeah, definitely.
But what's fabulous is that you could ask AI the question of, I'm thinking about writing a book on time management and productivity. What might be a chapter layout that I would use for that book? And it will give you a brilliant chapter layout. But coming back to your question of doing the archaeology work, if you create a project, and for example, in ChatGPT or Claude, and you upload into your project files all of this content stuff and ask AI to give you some feedback as to what possible themes or topics or ideas coalesce around the content you've uploaded, it will give that to you.
Yeah. So say, for example, you've written a blog, you could upload either a link to those blogs or the actual articles and say, look, this is what I've written. I want to write a book about something to do with this. Help me brainstorm ideas about way we can bring all this information together into one place. And I think that's how I would use it if I was following your approach.
Yeah. And I like that term brainstorm. So as back in the day when I was an attorney and managing partner of a law firm, I had minions, young associates who worked for me. And I'd bring them in and ask, I have this brilliant idea for a brief that I'm going to do for the appellate court. And here's what I'm thinking. Go out and get me the stuff for it. I use AI to brainstorm with. I use it as an interactive partner. In that regard, it is a brilliant tool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the other things you talked about, just you're a publishing house. I mean, most of you talked about the writing today, but we're talking about getting an actual finished book out. Are there any, it's just because we're touching on AI, I'm just thinking now about jobs you can outsource. Like, obviously, we talked all about the writing. Which parts would you not do yourself? Like, would you think about outsourcing editing, for example? Or at what point would you think, I don't want to do this part, I want to do someone else to do it for me?
Yeah. So the obvious one is proofreading.
Yes.
AI, we're using actually multiple tools to actually solve for proofreading, but proofreading is an obvious one to enroll AI in.
Yep.
Line editing, content editing, we still use people on our team for that because, we have worked for so long often with our clients that we know where it needs work, where the voice needs to be extended, what becomes repetitive. And that's, by the way, another huge AI tell. AI gets lazy. If you have it working on it as an Word manuscript, it becomes so obvious that it's like sourcing its own stories after a while. And so it's not a useful tool for actually creating a beautiful manuscript that continues to develop new and fresh ideas throughout it. So right now, I would say the most valuable place is in the proofreading arena.
Yeah, definitely. You can't really mark your own homework, and so you've got to outsource that part.
Yes.
Yep. And so the next steps in the 6 paths. So
we've got a page a day, a blog a week, archive, searching out your archives and curating the work. And then, if that's not working for you alone, then get a book coach. That's number 4, get a book coach.
Yep.
And someone who will work with you to create the accountability and the rhythm and to give you feedback on what you're writing from week to week, month to month over an arc of time. So that's number 4. Number 5 is a variant of that. We call it book doctoring. Somebody's got a pile of stuff. They've done their best to do the archival work around it, but it's still just a pile of stuff. We call that as book doctoring. Okay, let's go and do some minor or major surgery with this, and we'll go in and create the book with the stuff that you've brought us. And then the last piece, as you well know, and it's something that we love to do on a very selective basis, is ghostwriting. Somebody who is interviewing somebody from our team who was interviewing the author and getting inside their heads, understanding their voice, what their arc is, what their why is, and then settling in and creating that for them. So those are the 6 ways.
Perfect. And so with Summit Press Publishers, do you help with every part of those stages? Do you help with even up to the ghostwriting?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've got a number of very interesting ghostwriting projects going on right now.
Yeah. And who are the sorts of clients that you usually want to be working with?
They are business professionals or entrepreneurs who understand that having a book in the world is the thing that helps them stand out above the noise, above the competition, to be seen as an authority, as an expert in their industry, and they want to make a bigger impact in the world. They want to get their message out in a bigger way. And so we've worked across industries: financial professionals, mental health professionals, physicians, coaches, consultants, speakers. We've done a lot of work in the parenting industry. We've done a lot of work in the how-to, as in time management, how to grow a business, how to avoid. We've done we have a book recently with professionals who are working in the sex addiction industry. So broad range of entrepreneurs and business professionals who understand the book can get their message out into the world and impact a lot more people.
Amazing. And if you could just literally just give one piece of advice to someone who wanted to, take control of their time and actually start writing their book, what would that one piece be?
We honor the dream. Block the time for next week to make it happen. Set aside a time for it. I mean, if you were to look at my calendar, and it seems almost a little OCD, but I have on my calendar the time that I do my morning run. I have the 3 times in the week that I go to the gym. I have the times that I connect with my partner on there. I have all of my tasks during the day. And one of the things our publisher says is, with discipline comes freedom. And so if we honor the thing that we want to do by devoting the time to it, and then just sitting down and doing it, however imperfectly, we don't need to get it right on the first go. There'll be lots of time to refine the work. Just begin. Just get it down.
Yeah, I love that. With discipline comes freedom. I love that. That's probably going to be the tagline for this podcast, I think.
Well, it's not sexy, really. I mean, the idea of disciplining ourselves, but I have a pretty vigorous my subtitle of my second book, The Power Principles of Time Mastery: Do Less, Make More, Have Fun. I love the F word. I love having fun. And so, I spend a lot of time, particularly in the winter, backcountry skiing and ice climbing and downhill skiing, and in the summer, trail running. I get to do that because I have blocked the time. And when we have important work to do in the world, most of our authors are really mission driven. They're driven to get their work out into the world. And if we're mission driven, then we must honor that mission by giving it the time it deserves.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. I mean, I've just been taking so many notes about how I need to basically just work harder to get my books out. So. I know you mentioned you've got the publishers, you've got a new book coming out, Brick by Brick. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
So Brick by Brick actually breaks down a lot of the things that we talked about today. And it's available on Amazon, so you can go and get it there. And then, I mentioned my book, the Journeys on the Edge, Living a Life That Matters, and my second book, The Power Principles of Time Mastery, also available over on the Amazon. And the place to find us in the interweb world is summitpresspublishers.com, summitpresspublishers.com, all run together with the .com.
Great. We'll put notes for that in the show notes as well, so it's easy to click.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, Walt. It's been great chatting. Love to speak to you again, and thanks for coming on.
Such a gift to spend time with you and your listeners. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Walt. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Show. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I absolutely love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, I want to tell you about our Publishing Performance Starter Packs. These are curated episodes and collections organised by topic that makes it super easy to find the exact content you're looking for. So whether you're wanting to deep dive into marketing strategies, explore productivity techniques, or focus on any specific area of publishing, we've organised our episodes into targeted playlists just for you. And you can find these all at teddyagsmith.com. And also, whilst you're here, let me tell you about Publishing Performance. It's the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales but aren't really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books, and if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximise your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalised ad account manager to create your ad campaigns for you, to choose your best keywords and to make adjustments in real time and to optimise them over time to save you money and to make more sales. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. You can get started with Amazon ads for free for 30 days at publishingperformance.com, and there's a link in the show notes to get that free 30 days trial. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Show. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I absolutely love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, I want to tell you about our Publishing Performance Starter Packs. These are curated episodes and collections organised by topic that makes it super easy to find the exact content you're looking for. So whether you're wanting to deep dive into marketing strategies, explore productivity techniques, or focus on any specific area of publishing, we've organised our episodes into targeted playlists just for you. And you can find these all at teddyagsmith.com. And also, whilst you're here, let me tell you about Publishing Performance. It's the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales but aren't really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books, and if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximise your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalised ad account manager to create your ad campaigns for you, to choose your best keywords and to make adjustments in real time and to optimise them over time to save you money and to make more sales. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. You can get started with Amazon ads for free for 30 days at publishingperformance.com, and there's a link in the show notes to get that free 30 days trial.